allow you to put your Eloqua instance to work. So first of all, introductions, those that are here. I'm Emily Eubanks, again, VP of Services for Relationship One. I have been in the consulting space for about 9 years and have been in the Eloqua community for more than 10 years. So I've been around for quite a while. In other words, I'm old. We also have Lexi Rush, who is our Alliance Director for Oracle, who has put this together for us so that we can share this information out with you. Quick housekeeping, we have placed all the lines on mute, but Aaron Johnson, our VP of Sales and Marketing for Relationship One, is monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, please feel free to put that into the chat. He will interrupt me with pertinent questions and those kinds of things. Or he may choose to hold them to the end so that we can continue the flow of the conversation. But either way, your questions are being monitored and will not be ignored. Today, what we hope to do is to cover with you some of the campaign architecture best practices when you're designing your campaigns beyond just grabbing a segment, throwing an email together and shoving it out the door, which, by the way, works really, really well. But how do we architect our campaigns so that we can get more power out of our system, use the automation that's available to you so you aren't always rushing, trying to find content, trying to find segments, and getting information to your customer and prospect base. Secondly, we're going to do a deep dive into nurtures and what that really means and how we can go about nurturing our clients, as well as giving you some ideas for some common nurtures that you should be looking to implement, and then talking about some of the more advanced campaigns that we can bring to bear. Just frankly, we are setting this webinar up so that we can have a talking generally to our basic audience. However, some of the advanced campaigns that we're talking about, typically we would find with functionality that is enabled on the standard trim level, or with certain integrations or certain add-ons that you can purchase. So we'll talk about those a little bit. However, anything that I mentioned, you can do on the basic trim as well. So good news there. Then we'll open up the floor for QA. Aaron, I wanted to also confirm that you are recording, because we will want to send out this recording afterward, as well as the slide deck for you to keep and use at your convenience.
Yep, thanks for confirming, Emily. We are recording.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, let's get started then. So when we talk about campaign architecture, essentially what we're talking about is the process of planning actions so that your leads, your clients, your customers are getting exactly what they need at their key point in the buying cycle to help them move to the next decision point, to the next point along that buying cycle. And the Content Marketing Institute gives us 5 core building blocks when we're thinking about content marketing and the framework. We always start with planning and with goal setting. Why are you creating content? What is it that you want to share with your audience, and what value will it provide? So it's not enough just for us to be proud of our own dog food, but the dogs need to eat it too. So we need to make sure that it is valuable. Secondly, who are you creating that content for? It is imperative that we make sure that we have a good idea of who we're sending information to. If I am a marketer to lawyers, and I send out information to the finance team, that information is not going to resonate with them. So we want to make sure that we are sending the right content to the right people, and again, keeping in mind how they are going to benefit from that information. Probably most important is setting up the story. What is the message that you want to deliver? What is specific or unique or valuable that you need to share, that you are interrupting people's days by sending them another email? You know, coincidentally, research shows that our contacts are bombarded with about 5,000 different marketing messages in the course of a day. And that sounds like a lot, but if you think about what you see on TV, If you think about what you see riding down the road on billboards or hear on the radio or get in your email, both personal and work email, it's a lot of noise. And so we need to make sure that our story is solid so we can cut through that noise and help them take the action that we wish for them to take. Also important, how are you going to structure your campaign in order to activate your plans? How are you going to organize your campaign to not tire out or fatigue your audience, but give them the information that they want, that you want them to receive, pardon me. And then lastly, but definitely not least, is measurement. How are you going to gauge your performance? If we are not going to measure this, you know, I have the question that I ask of my clients all the time, if you're not going to track the results, then why are you bothering to send it out? So we need to make sure that we are thinking about the end goal in mind. What is it that we want to obtain, and how are we going to measure that to make sure that we can deliver on that ROI? So the first phase that we talk about is really the campaign planning phase. And again, it seems really simple, but it's hard to put into practice a lot of times because people kind of get lost along the way. We always start with our goal. What is it that we want to happen? Do we want to get net new contacts? Do we want to invite people to a speaking event? Do we want increased revenue? Well, yes, always. What is it that we want to happen? What is our goal? From there, we can decide what is our flow going to be. Are we going to send people on some sort of journey? Are we sending them to more of what I call a drip campaign where we're just sending out information? Do we want sales to follow up with them? Do we want to have some sort of conversation with them? So what do we want our audience to experience? Thirdly, what are the assets that we're going to provide? Do we have white papers? Do we have videos? Obviously, email is going to be a major component of this. Do we have some sort of handwritten information, some direct mail piece that is going to be part of this campaign? So what content do we need to make it work? And if we don't have all of our assets or all of our content, what do we need to create before we can deliver this campaign? And then lastly, we need to build it, because if you build it, they will come. So how do we actually put it all together to make a cohesive experience for our customers? The way to do that is to align your content to campaign life cycles. And this is not unfamiliar to any of you, I am sure, that there are stages along the buyer journey, starting with interest, to learning about you, to evaluating you, to justifying that this is the right solution, and then making a purchase decision. And what you see here are some typical kinds of campaigns that you would see along that campaign life cycle. And if I were thinking about what is it that I need to architect as a modern marketer, these are the kinds of just baseline campaigns that I would want to create. I would want to start with a welcome or a re-engagement campaign, some sort of educational or thought leadership campaign, something that answers the question of why my solution, why my service, why my product, and why not my competitors. A sense of urgency, how do I remove roadblocks? Am I able to show them the value of what would happen if they chose our solution today? Can I offer any kind of promotional discount to get someone in the door? Once they become a customer, how do I onboard them? How do I keep them engaged, showing them what they need to know in order to use my product or my service successfully? And then lastly, how do I turn them into a loyal customer or an evangelist for my solution? Aaron, I want to stop here. Are there any questions so far?
No questions in chat yet, Emily.
Perfect. Fantastic. Be sure to use the chat if you do have any questions whatsoever. And last again, but definitely not least, is measurement. How are we going to track our campaign performance against our goals? And what is it that's important to the business? Is it how many leads are created? Is it email metrics? It is engagement rate. Or is it simply, I want to make sure that people don't opt out of my messages? And we can do that through reporting within Eloqua itself. So now that we've talked a little bit about the basics of campaign architecture, what we want to talk about more specifically are nurture campaigns so that we can harness the power of your marketing automation system. To do so, I want to take just a moment to step back and answer the question, what is lead nurturing, so that I make sure that we are working from the same definition. Put simply, lead nurturing is the process of cultivating leads that are not ready to buy. It is a two-way communication. Not only are we sharing information with our prospects and our customers, but we are asking for information in return. If nothing else, we are asking for them to engage, to let us know whether or not they are interested in this type of content. Our goal definitely is to keep our prospects engaged so that we can make sure that they understand that my product, my service, is the best choice to meet their objectives. Because ultimately, lead nurturing is what is going to help us get to closed-won deals. As I was doing some research for this presentation today, I ran across a couple of industry kind of metrics that I thought were interesting. One, 60% of marketers believe that technology can help them deliver more high-quality leads. And that sounds kind of, well, yeah, duh, but truly, it is the way that we can get a deeper reach into our audiences and use automation to do that. Think about 20 years ago where email marketing was just in its infancy. It was really difficult, and a lot of the things were still reliant upon non-digital streams. So we've come a long way, and marketers do believe that that can help. Companies that excel at lead nurturing generate 50% more sales leads at 33% lower cost per lead. This is important because you can do more with less. We all have limited budgets. We all have limited headcount. So how can we make the most of that and let the machines do the work for us? From a sales side, sales reps dedicate about 14% of their time to lead development, but only about half of those leads are ever utilized. So if sales reps are only spending, 14% of their time trying to gain new leads, it is up to marketing to help them bolster that number so that they have more opportunities to chase. And lastly, 84% of leads that we as marketers say are qualified leads are not ready to buy. So it is imperative that we nurture those leads. And this is an old slide, but I love it. A typical lead funnel is that only 20% of all leads are followed up on. From that, 70% of those leads are disqualified, either through the marketing qualification process or from the sales acceptance process. But what's really interesting is that 80% of that 70% buy anyway, either from you or from your competitor. So imagine if we were nurturing that other 80% that are not getting any kind of follow-up. How we can actually increase our closed-won purchases. Shown another way, if you think about the funnel from reach to retention, our focus as marketers is typically at the top of the funnel. We are interested in gaining new names to get into our funnel, to have additional opportunities to chase. And while that is absolutely important, what happens a lot of times is we send leads over to sales too soon. On the converse side, on the right-hand side, you can see that in a current sales-focused model, that's where sales is actually interested in the funnel. And because of that, they tend to cherry pick their leads or let longer time frames exist on those that they don't deem exactly worthy of following up immediately. What that leads to is the lead development gap that you see in the gray right along the middle, where all of our warm leads leak out because sales doesn't see them as an immediate dollar and marketing has sent them across, but maybe a bit too soon. So our leads leak out, and then we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort to re-engage them or recapture those lost leads. And this is where nurturing comes in. So how do we achieve nurturing success? First of all, we need to define our lead stages. We need to know how this equates to the sales funnel, how it equates and is mapped to the buyer's journey, which are two wholly different things, and come up with some matrix to make that happen. We then need to map that content to our buying cycle, decide what type of nurture campaigns we need, and design that workflow process using some sort of flowchart tool, or in Eloqua, you can kind of build it right there, because I love to call Eloqua Visio on steroids, because it just simply allows you to design it as you go, make the changes, add in your content, test it out, and do everything all in one interface. And then, of course, as I've said at least twice now, we need to make sure we're measuring it. This slide is just another view of the funnel where we have all of our reach channels coming into our funnel, helping us to push leads along that funnel to the sales team so that they can close those opportunities, with lead nurturing across that entire funnel. So it's not just enough to talk to the MQL and SAL stages, which is where we typically see that leakage of leads, but it really is important to nurture. If I have someone who is in the suspect stage, how do I get them to inquiry, and how do I get them to MQL? If I have someone who is in the SQL stage, how do I actually use lead nurturing and marketing messages to push them toward opportunity? We then map our content to our buying cycle, and this is a great chart. I actually have it on my bulletin board, where we talk about those buying cycle: interest, learn, evaluate, justify, and purchase, with questions that need to be answered at each stage of the buying cycle, as well as what kinds of content we can offer and what experience people can have at each one of those stages. So, for instance, if we look at the interest phase, when this is really high level in the funnel where your search is beginning, people are asking, who can help me? Who can solve my problem? What is the scope of achievement? What am I as a customer trying to achieve? How can I find out more about your solution as it fits into my use case? And the things that we can do there are send out emails. Web content is critically important. Paid ads, search, those kinds of things, as well as offering seminars, podcasts, webinars, roundtables, all different kinds of things that people can join to gain more information. Once you map your content to your buying cycle, you then decide what your campaign nurture strategy is. And this is where you take all of your different channels and figure out where should it lie. At what place are all of your different channels going to map to those buying journey stages? And then, once we have all of that and we've decided what we want to do, then we can build our campaign. So we're actually going to drop into Eloqua and do a demo of creating a campaign. And for this campaign, we have a scenario where we are a software development company who creates low-cost apps with in-app purchases to gain additional revenues. Our management has come to the marketing team and said, hey, we've noticed that over 50% of our customers who buy our app for $3.99 have never even activated the product, and they're asking us, what can we do to drive adoption? So we put on our thinking caps and we decide that we want to create an automated welcome campaign to ensure that our customers have what they need to start using our products and services. So we're going to actually do a little demo. I'm going to see if I can drop over to Eloqua quickly. Are you still able to see my screen?
Yep, Emily, we are seeing Eloqua.
Perfect. And I want to take a pause here to see if there are any questions on, kind of strategy and theory behind campaign architecture and nurturing strategies.
There's nothing in the chat yet, but I'll keep monitoring as you begin your build.
All right, perfect, perfect. So here we will start. I'm in the campaign area of Eloqua, and I will start with building a multi-step campaign. A lot of folks, when they first start using Eloqua, they tend to use simple email campaigns. But as a rule, I like to use the multi-step campaign because it just gives me more flexibility. The simple email campaign is truly your batch and blast. I'm going to grab an audience, I'm going to grab an email, I'm going to put those together and allow it to send out. And it gets disjointed if I have to or I want to send multiple emails about the same topic. Take that extra moment in time and create a multi-step campaign so that then you can set your campaign and move on and just forget about it. So I'm going to start with a blank canvas here. And with my blank canvas, as you know, we have tons and tons of things that we can choose. I'm going to start always with a segment. What is it that I need to do? And what I'm doing for my scenario is that we have folks who are signing up. So what we want to do is make sure that we are looking for anyone who has activated, or look for anyone who is net new to our system who has not yet activated their product. And so I set up a segment already that allows us to do that. And in this segment, I'll open it up for you so that you can see kind of how this was constructed. Very simple. My criteria is my contacts who have a contact type of equal to customer. So number one, we need to make sure that there is some sort of flag that brings in customer versus prospect, and they have a purchase history most recent field that is on or after yesterday. And so I come up with 5 contacts who meet that criteria. Perfect. The first thing that we want to do is we want to check to see if they have activated their product. So what that means is we also need a field that checks for activation date. So I'm going to bring in a decision step here that allows me to look for contacts who have activated their product. And I have a field called activation date, and I want to say, I want to just see if the activation date is blank. I don't care when it happened, I just want to make sure that it did happen. And if that activation date is blank, then I want to send an activation reminder email. So I have an email there. If the activation date is not blank, that means that they have already activated it. What I want to do is create a series of communications that is more of a drip type of campaign. I don't necessarily care whether they engage or not. I'm not basing it on any activity that they've done, but I need to share welcome information to them to help drive adoption of the product, to give them tips and tricks, to give them resources so that they can use the product effectively. So here, I'm going to bring in another email. And this one's just going to be my welcome. And there we go. So now we have the first step, maybe. There we go. So now that I have the basis of the first step of my campaign, What do I want to have happen next? Is it enough just to send them one email? Probably not. So I need to consider, how long should I wait before emailing again? If we know that people have 5 days to activate their new product before they have to call support, maybe I want to say, I want to check this at 3 days to see if they've activated it. And so this little evaluation period here is basically the child in the back seat going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? That's exactly what that step is doing. Additionally, while I'm thinking about it, I want to go back to my segment, and instead of only adding members once, I want to make sure that this becomes like a feeder segment. Anytime someone meets my criteria, I want them fed into my campaign. And that way, this becomes an always-on or an evergreen campaign that you can set and forget. This is always going to happen as someone is coming into your nurture stream. So we have our always-on segment. We have our 3-day evaluation to see if they have activated it. If they have not, they get sent an email. So what happens after that? I think that we should probably check again. After that email is sent, we're going to check again for another couple of days to see if that has actually, if someone has activated their product with our, with the information that they need. So again, pardon me, I have my email, it's being sent, then I am going to check for another 2 days to see if they have activated it. Oops, I'm going to change that to is blank. There we go. So now the question again is activation date blank? If it is not blank, that's fantastic. They move over to this stream to start getting our cadenced emails about our welcome to our company, welcome to the product. If not, then I send them a second email that says, hey, you're going to expire in another day or 2. And so I'll send them the second reminder. And then what happens after that? So it's, again, just thinking through what happens at each stage. What do you want to have happen? If I've sent them 2 emails and they still haven't activated the product, it's not likely that another email is going to do that. So what we have decided to do is we're going to add all of these contacts to a shared list who have not activated, and then we're going to send that over to the sales floor for an immediate personal follow-up. So we're going to be proactive instead of allowing them just to languish and die on the vine. We're going to get our sales team to proactively call to help people to re-engage. So after that email, I may bring in a wait step, and we'll wait for another 2 or 3 days. Well, I should probably, instead of doing a wait step, do another compare. Again, activation date is blank. We'll give it another 3 days. This means that the activation period is completely gone. If it is still blank, then I'm going to add them to a shared list and exit them out of the program. If it is not blank, well, obviously they begin getting our wonderful email chain here. And remember I said that this stream was going to be more of a drip campaign. So this is just simply a cadenced email where I want to put in wait steps between these emails. And we'll just say we're going to wait for 3 days. Now, if you are setting this as an always-on campaign, you know, in your wait steps, you have the option to choose for a set amount of time versus a specific date. if you're setting this as an always on, you always want to use a specific amount of time rather than a specific date, because a year from now, you don't want someone to get these 3 emails back to back. We'll send email 2. And so on. Questions about the campaign workflow?
I don't see any questions immediately about the workflow, Emily.
Okay. You guys are a quiet group. Okay, so let me move back over to Keynote now that we have gone through the Eloqua demo, and let's talk a little bit about kind of nurture strategies and the kinds of campaigns that we suggest that you use in your marketing practice. So some of the best practices that I can give you here at this point is start simple. Don't start trying to boil the ocean here. Come up with a simple campaign. Come up with a, several waves of content or communication that you want to engage your audience on. Think about those overarching topics or those gaps that your marketing today may be missing. Are you sending out, product announcements or point-in-time announcements? What is that, what I call the dial tone buzz across the top of your marketing that you could design to allow people to continually get your messages in an unobtrusive way? Making sure that you provide value content and offers to your customers and prospects. Just because we can send emails doesn't mean we should. So make sure that it's valuable, because the last thing that we want to have happen is for them to unsubscribe, where we lose the ability to talk to them at all. Also, as you're doing this, allow your audience to raise their hands and shortcut their nurture journey. So remember, at each stage in the sample that I created, I checked to see if they've taken the action that we wanted them to take, which is to activate their product. If they did, they moved to a separate area. If they've taken your action, there's no need to get another 4, 5, 6 emails. If they took action that you wanted them to take on the first email, get them out. They're already moving in the right place, and that means that they are more likely to go ahead and buy. So why continue to bombard them with messages when they've already said, yes, I'm interested? Also, make sure you keep your prospects interested by telling them what's next. As we go through marketing, a lot of times our customers get very disjointed messages. So making sure to keep that cohesive, keep up your marketing calendar so that you can tell them, hey, we have a webinar coming up in 2 weeks. Be looking for an invitation. We have a new product announcement in October. Be looking for more information. Tease out that information, if you can, to tell them what's coming next. And also tracking your online activity and develop your baselines for your future campaigns. If today you are not doing much more than just batching and blasting out emails, think about using some of these to develop your baselines. Do you know what your average open rate is? Do you know what your average click-through rate is? How can you continue to raise the bar on your metrics to, at the end of the day, prove the value of marketing for your organization? There are a couple of really powerful campaign types that I just wanted to highlight for you. One of them is a drip campaign, and we saw that in our demo where we are dripping out welcome content to our new customers. We also combine that with a multi-wave campaign where we said, okay, I'm going to send out content to you, and if you take the action that I want you to take, then I will either send different information or the same information to you once again. We also have daisy-chained campaigns. So if you have products that are that should be paired together, how can we cross-sell those products? If we have someone interested in one track, once they get through with that nurture journey, what's next? So as you get more sophisticated with your campaign infrastructure and your campaign architecture, the question then becomes not what can I send, but what's next? How horrible would it be to get to 70% of a movie and the movie cuts off? We want to make sure that we continue giving value and giving content until a purchase decision or until that even evangelist stage. And then I have what I call choose your own adventure campaigns. Based on activity that people are doing, they can self-select into certain nurture streams. A lot of these start with, what do you want to hear from us? And we can send them content. We can also do that not by directly asking, but we can also do that by what they're doing on your website, what they're doing with your emails. We can tell what they're interested in by what they're clicking on. And so we can design these choose your own adventure campaigns so that contacts can get the information that they want. From a campaign recommendation, there are several campaigns that we expect to see in any modern marketing practice. One of those, most basically, are autoresponders or asset fulfillment. Somebody fills out a form, then they get an email that delivers that asset or delivers some sort of information to them. We also would expect to see some sort of onboarding campaign for new customers. The best thing that you can do is gain a loyal following, and so it's and as you know, it's much easier to keep a good customer than to go find a new one. So onboarding them, making them feel part of the family, making sure that they are seeing the value of your company and your products. A welcome campaign for net new names and new subscribers. You've gotten a new name into your database. We can check that by the date created field in Eloqua, and we can send them some sort of welcome campaign. Hey, thanks for your interest. There's a lot of things we can teach you. It's going to be really high level, but again, that's one of those campaigns that you can just set and forget about it. We also like to see re-engagement campaigns. If a customer or a prospect has had no activity with any of our digital content for some number of days or some number of months, then why not do a re-engagement campaign to see if we can get them back into active status? Event invitations are also really great to set up as nurtures so that you can set it all up at one time and then let it run, as well as product service promotions and customer loyalty and retention programs. And lastly, education, thought leadership are really good to set up as campaigns that kind of sit over top of your day-to-day marketing activities that continue that buzz that you want your customers to experience. Now let's talk a little bit about advanced campaigns. There are a few advanced kind of campaigns that are definitely worth the effort, that take a little bit more work. Again, if you're on the basic trim, some of these things may be a little more work than if you were on, say, standard or enterprise trims, but they're definitely worth the effort to take. Cross promotions, as we were talking about, that daisy chaining, so that I can, if I know someone is interested in product A, then I want to also send them messaging about product B because they're complementary products. Activity-based campaigns based on what someone is doing, setting up high-value content on your website, setting up some sort of campaigns when someone hits a particular lead score. Let's say that you're lead scoring, you're getting stuck with people at the B2 stage. How do I get them past that? Buyer journey mapped campaigns, that requires a bit of work simply because the amount of content that you need to create there. event promotions, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. I actually have broken out what an event would look like in Eloqua. And so from promotion to post-event journeys, all of that can be automated. And it is well worth the effort to do that because events are usually point in time. They require a lot of effort, a big, huge uplift every single time. You can cut that by at least half by automating that in Eloqua. And then progressive profiling. I want to find out more about my customers. Use your journeys, your campaign journeys, to gain more information by asking 1 or 2 questions on a form instead of asking them for 14 fields every time they come to your website. And as we just talked about, some of the reasons these are more complicated is that it requires good data hygiene, it requires planning, it requires you to think beyond just the inbox. It requires you to think about all the places that you can touch your customers with messaging, and it sometimes requires integration with third-party tools when thinking about events. If you have an in-person event, Eloqua can't capture what's happening on the show floor. Well, it can, but typically you would need to integrate that with some third-party tool, an Eventbrite, a WebEx, or whatever that may be, to be able to have that full circle of event planning. Since I've been talking about event campaigns, let's take a look at how we would construct an entire event campaign communication flow within Eloqua. So when I think about event campaigns, I think that they are all essentially the same. We always have pre-event. It could be a number of different kinds of invitations, but it's still the same process. We send an invitation, we check for registration. If they're not registered, we send another invitation. If they're registered, then we wait until the event happens. During registration, we always confirm, yes, you're in or you're on a wait list, a 1-week reminder, a day of reminder, an hour before reminder. Again, you could have any number of iterations based on what your business case is, but essentially the process is the same. We also can provide air cover at event. So this is really unique that you can, let's say, have an Eloqua form on an iPad sitting at your booth. Someone can fill it out. Before they even walk away from your booth, they can have the asset or product information in their inbox because you're using Eloqua during that event. We can also send out meeting reminders or generate event excitement by using Eloqua campaigns during your event. And then there's the post-event. After the event is held, attendance is captured, either you attended or you didn't attend, and we send you some sort of message that applies. So when I think about in Eloqua, all the pre-event can be built on the campaign canvas. Pretty simple to build out that information. The registration process can be built in the Eloqua Events module if you have that turned on in your instance or if you are on standard or enterprise trims. If you do not, then you can build this in Eloqua Campaign Canvas as well. Just will require a little bit more work to daisy chain your pre-event to your registration process. And then post-event, this is either the Eloqua Events module or Campaign Canvas with your third-party integrations. And so all of this can be built out within Eloqua using the tools that are at your fingertips to help automate your marketing. Now I'll open it up for questions with about 10 or 12 minutes left.
Great, thanks, Emily. I'm watching chat here to see if there are any final questions. Please, if there are any topics or any questions that you'd like Emily to follow up on, now's your chance. Yeah, we have one question, Emily. Can you talk more about building registration in Eloqua for events?
Sure, absolutely I can. So when we think about building registration for events, you can build a form within Eloqua, put it on an Eloqua landing page or house it externally, and you can build those registration pages so that they feed into, and I'll go back a slide or two, that they can be built into the Eloqua Events module, where it will capture sessions that can then send out automatically the confirmation, the reminders, the sorry we missed you, and the thanks for attending. But you can also do that just with form processing steps as well. I'm curious, did you mean about the event air cover, or did you mean the pure process of building a registration form? And you can turn on the audio if you wish, just to make that a little bit easier.
Yeah, the question's about the process of building the form, Emily.
Okay. Yep. And so you build out your form with the form fields that you want. You can either capture that in a custom data object, which would be my recommendation if you are doing it not in the event module. If you've never played with the event module before, it simply is a productized custom data object with data services attached to it. So you can build all of that within just a regular custom data object, where you would capture your session, your attendee information, which session they want to attend, what's the date, what's the city, all of those pieces of information. And then you can use that and dynamically merge in that information into your confirmation and reminder emails. If we know they signed up for 8:15 in Boston, you can say, thank you for registering for our session on August the 15th in Boston, and those can be field merges coming directly from your custom data object, so that way you never have to touch it again. Did I answer the question?
I think so. We'll see if there's any follow-up, Emily.
Okay.
Any additional questions? I don't see any additional questions at this point, Emily.
And if the person who was asking questions about forms would, want to chat live, I am definitely available. Just let Lexi or Erin know and send your email address, and we'll follow up.
Great. Well, we appreciate everyone's participation and attendance in the webinar today. Like we said at the top, we'll make this recording available to everyone who registered, so you can share or re-listen to the content if you would like to. Thanks, Emily, for being our presenter today. We'll excuse everyone at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.